was working like 18, 20 hours a day, every single day. It's like, I either don't do it or I do. If I did go to class, I was working on it. I wouldn't be listening to the college professor every day, just boom, 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 boom.
All right, Gav Kwok, welcome to the HighKey Podcast.
Thank you for having me, Jackson.
Yeah, of course. So you have a lot of experience in Amazon FBA, so I kind of want to go through a little agenda for this episode and like what I want to get into. You know, you scaled drop shipping Amazon FBA business to 7 figures in 5 months, which is crazy. And now you're doing 9 figures in wholesale Amazon FBA. So I definitely want to dive into that. I also want to dive into, you know, some visualization strategies because I know you're big on that. Maybe go into your vision board a bit. But I think to start, I want to dive more into your in your journey coming up, like, you know, pivotal moments, what got you to this point of ultra successful and like wanting to become ultra successful.
Yeah, so do you want me to start at like my childhood, or do you want me to start?
Yeah, childhood would be great.
Yeah, so I grew up in a typical traditional like Asian household, let's say, mostly Chinese, and it was it was a very interesting environment growing up. You know, it was when you live like when all you know is like your parents just instill like they instill like a sense of, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that. And like in some ways it was bad, but in other ways it was really good. Like looking back on it, right? Like at the time it's like, oh, like, you know, I hate you guys or whatever. Can I curse on this?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, yeah, it's kind of like, fuck you guys. Like, you know, like, I hate this. Like, why are you doing this to me? But I like looking back, it's like, oh, like, you know, they actually instilled that mindset of, hey, like, you have to do this to, you know, get ahead in life, right? You know, you have to do the things you don't want to do. And I think that has played a huge role in the success I have now, right? Like younger, I was, you know, forced to, you know, like play tennis, right? Like every day. I hated it, you know, like we lived in very hot places and, you know, would be forced to train and, you know, but through that, I, you know, became, you know, a junior pro tennis player and got great success doing that. So I used to be an athlete, and I remember I became like obsessed, you know, with getting better, right, at tennis. Like I remember I'll be jumping around a lot, but I would go to school, right, and all I'd think about is getting better. Even at school, I thought I was wasting time, you know, even in, you know, middle school, high school, right. I grew up in Sydney, Australia, by the way.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so from a young age. But I moved to the States when I was like 13. But I remember I was like in school and I was like wearing like ankle weights while I was walking around.
No
You know?
way.
Yeah. And I'd be wearing like long like sweatpants and shit. Like, you know, people thought I was fucking crazy, you know. And I'd have like in my backpack, like, you know, like those like grip things that you squeeze, like those metal ones.
I do those.
Yeah, you do?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, no, like I used to have like those because those really help with like tennis, right? And I'd be like so good I could do like, you know, it was like like I'll do like thousands of those like throughout the day at school, and people thought I was just fucking like insane, right? But it's like things like that where it's so outside the norm, and like normal people think you're crazy, but it's those little things that add up and make you better than everybody else, right? So, yeah, like, so to start off with, you know, tennis, and then I came to America when I was 13, so it's been almost 14 years now since I moved. Still play tennis, but when I got a little older, like 16, 17, I had a few, like, major injuries that, like, set me back, and
Always happens.
yeah, it is fucked, you know, like, yeah, I got injured. I was out for like a year. Came back, wasn't the same. You know, and then my parents weren't very supportive, you know, of the whole tennis thing either.
Yeah.
So I ended up just going to school. Went to college when I was, you know, 17. Big state university. Learned how to pretty much Well, at the time, it was like my only social interaction was other like tennis kids, right, around my
Yeah.
age. So I didn't have much experience like, socializing in like a big group setting or talking to a lot of people. So I wasn't very good at communicating, right? And I went to college with a mindset like, oh, like I'm just gonna communicate as effectively as possible. Like I'm gonna make friends with everybody, Like I'm gonna be like that guy on campus, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be, in every single social circle. I'm gonna be part of Greek life. I'm gonna like do this, do that, right? And that's what I did in college. Like in terms of actual things I learned in college, I think everybody knows now it's pretty useless, right? But I was in college for
Yeah.
almost 5 years. Uh, you know, and
What were you doing?
at first it was just like, I was just, to be fair, I mean, to be completely transparent, it was very degenerate. My first, like freshman, sophomore year, I didn't know much about, entrepreneurship. I didn't know much
Yeah.
about, I didn't know what entrepreneurship was, or all these things that I feel like people like us know now, right? Like, financial freedom, time freedom, all this, to separate
Mm-hmm.
time from money, all this stuff, right? I was just going out, partying, whatever. But I started to realize after my sophomore year, I was like, damn, like, uh, I really got to get my shit together. And at first, I was following my parents' path of, doing like pre med and, you know, I did really well in pre med. I was spending, I was either in the library or I was out partying, so it was like, I was like pretty much a straight A student, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like,
Oh.
oh, I want to get, yeah, I was like, I want to get into like Harvard Med and all this other shit. And I was like, I already had everything planned out, right? Because in my life, I either do something or I don't do something, right? It's like, it's 100 to 0. Like, I want to be the best at it or I don't do it at all, right?
Yeah.
Like, in
If
anything
it's
in my
not
life.
worth doing 100%, then it's just not worth doing.
Exactly. Like, I don't, I never get where people like stay in like this midway, halfway point of, oh, I'm doing it, but I'm kind of not doing it. Like, I'm kind of shit at it, but I'm still doing it. And they always stay in like this weird middle ground, right? You might
Yeah.
as well just not do it. So I committed fully 100% to pre-med at the time. But then after a while, I realized I didn't want to, become a doctor anymore. And
What was
I,
that realization? Like, why? You're just like, this sucks. Like, school sucks. This is not the vision that I see going and working 12-hour days as a doctor.
it was a pivotal moment, I'd say. I was in the library one day, and I actually still remember the moment. And so, like, I had a very efficient studying strategy. Like, I have strategies for everything, right? So I'd like study for like 50 minutes, rest for 10, like watch a video or something, YouTube video, or just listen to some music for 10 minutes.
Like
And
an
then
entertaining YouTube video.
yeah, like, or like anything. Like, I'd watch like travel videos or something, like for 10 minutes to like, I don't know, feel better about how shitty it
Yeah.
was. But I'd do that for like, like 12 hours straight, like this 50-10 cycle, right? But during one of those cycles, well, I was watching like this travel video, and it was like some travel influencer, and they were like, this guy was like traveling to all these places that I'd never been, and he was like with like his, you know, beautiful girlfriend, all this other stuff, right? And I was like,
Hmm.
fuck, like, and they were like doing like crazy shit, like jumping off fucking like planes and helicopters, and like just doing crazy shit, right? And I was like,
Yeah.
damn, like that looks so much more fun than what I'm doing. Like, and this guy's like, my age, right? Like, what am I
Yeah.
doing wrong? You know, like I was just literally stuck in the library,
Yeah.
doing like long
How
hours,
old
and I
were
was
you at
like,
this point?
what?
How old were you at this point?
I think I was like 18, like 18.
18.
Yeah, I think I was around 18, and I was like, how do I get that? And then that's when it like really started to like, you know, get moving in my brain. I was like, I need to figure out a way how to achieve that, and I know that being a doctor is
Yeah.
not going to be the way to get that, right?
Yeah.
So I started, looking up like, different things. It's like, and I found out about like entrepreneurship. Like all these people are doing this thing called entrepreneurship, like starting your business or whatever. That seems to be the fastest way, rather than being a
Hmm.
doctor. So I looked into it, I found out there was an entrepreneurship program at my school actually, and I I applied to be in it. Like I think it was actually very selective because actually like give you money to like start your own business and everything.
That's
Right? It was like
amazing.
it was like 40 people, and yeah, so you had to have like pretty much a perfect GPA to get in it. So I applied, and it was like I remember the essay they had, or like the prompt. It was like 1,000 word or something that you had to write of why you wanted to be in it. And I remember I wrote that in like 10 minutes. It was like the fastest like
Uh-huh.
essay or thing I'd ever read in my entire life. Didn't even proofread it. I was like, it's perfect. 10 minutes. I was just like, boom,
Yeah,
boom, boom,
yeah.
And I got in like the week after, easy, and I started pretty much being around like-minded people that wanted the same thing. And I think that's when it all started. And I found about e-commerce from these people who were doing Shopify the previous year. Like they were part of the previous class, and they were talking
Mm-hmm.
about like, oh, I'm making like 200K, a year. At the time, I thought that was like big numbers, right? And I was like, and they're like, yeah, we make
Good.
money. I was like, they're like, yeah, we make money while we like sleep, while we shit. It's like, and I was like, oh, that sounds perfect. That's
Yeah,
that sounds like what I need.
yeah.
So yeah, I think that's how it all started. And then I got into Shopify. Uh, but it was interesting because I think I didn't take it that seriously when it first started. But then after
Because
a
you
little
didn't
bit,
believe, or what?
I
Why
think it
didn't you
was the
take it
belief.
seriously?
I think it was the
Yeah.
belief. I feel like everyone who first starts doesn't truly believe in it until it actually happens, right? So I didn't fully commit to it for some reason. Well, I didn't even do it. Like I looked into it and I was like,
Yeah.
but I didn't actually do it. And I think it took like doing like all these entrepreneurship classes, and I think I went to like a freaking job fair. It was like the worst. Like it was like the worst experience of my entire life. Like all these
Yeah.
other people in my college are lining up at all these different booths with different companies, and they're like, "Here's your starting salary of 35K entry," and all this, all this bullshit. It was
Mm-hmm.
like terrible, and it was like, and their attitude was like, "Oh, why should we select you for this 35K shitty job?" And I was like, damn, like this is terrible. Like, let me look back into this e-commerce thing, right? And then I did, and then I remember 30 days later, after that whole thing, I was making 10K a month profit, you know, off Shopify, and I was selling like travel stuff, like whatever, right?
Okay,
And I
break
think,
that down. Break down that first
yeah,
10K and
yeah,
like
yeah,
what went into that.
yeah. So there's
I
a
know it's
there's
not going to be the same for people now because like that the drop shipping is definitely a little more
Mhm.
saturated and not the way to go. But break that
Yeah.
down.
I think at the time Shopify was still really good, and you could still run. Well, you didn't have to be at the top of the game to make money, right? I feel
Yeah.
like nowadays the competition is very very saturated, and if you do Shopify now, even though I'm not part of Shopify anymore, I have friends who still do big numbers. The game is very nuanced, very complex, very advanced, and you have to really brand. You have to have like a brand that people would trust on
Yeah.
Shopify. While before it was like you could throw up any ad with some click and people would buy it. So when I first started out, it was a lot of trial and error, and I remember, I was broke at the time, right? I didn't have, I could barely afford to pay rent. I was living in like a,
Yeah.
I was living in like a 250 a month, house with like 5 other people, like disgusting.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
was like, it was terrible, right? Uh, and I remember I was spending like hundreds of dollars on like ads and stuff, and it was like just not working. And I remember I spent like the last of my money at that time on like this Shopify course or something, and it was like
Mhm.
$500, I think.
That was it.
Yeah.
The rent money gone.
Hmm. And I was like, it has to work, right?
And this was the travel equipment specifically?
Yeah. So this was a travel equipment, and I was selling like drones and stuff. I think that was my best product. It had like a 5x margin if I sold it. I sourced it for like 10, sold it for like 80. You know, that was like my
that's
biggest.
really good.
That was like my best product. But yeah, I was doing ads, and that course taught me how to do like Facebook ads and stuff. Started running some ads, started getting some success. But I was working like 18, 20 hours a day, like every single day. You see, it's like I either don't do it or I do, right? Before I was spending zero, and then I stopped going to class, or if I did go to class, I was working on it. You know, I wouldn't be listening to whatever the college professor was saying. You know, I was just every day just boom, 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 boom. You know, and I feel like at that time, like when I got that first initial bit of success, like you know, at the time, like making 10K profit a month was like huge, right? Like when you go from making nothing, right,
100%,
making zero to making that much amount of money, you feel like you're rich.
Right? It's the biggest step, I think.
The biggest from 0 to 10K, I think there's no like I remember the jump from like 10 to 100K was like not as drastic. It's about the same, you know. And then from 0 to 10, and I was like just balling out, like you know, and I was like living and breathing like just like you know all these different things like entrepreneurship and just like getting like motivational like content in my head, and I just like you know I just banged it out, and I found out about Amazon shortly after I got this initial success. My ad account actually for Facebook got banned because they thought the drones I was selling were like weapons or something. And,
you know, China weapons.
Yeah, they're like, oh, these are from China. Like these are like drones that you fly out in the sky. You know, you're like, you know, selling weapons to people. And I was like, you know, and I couldn't reinstate it. I tried to appeal and everything, and I just couldn't get it back. And you know, I had all my pixel data. I don't know if you know much about Shopify, but it had, yeah, but like there's like this Facebook pixel that saves all your ad data of all your customers, right? And you base off your ads are more targeted based off the data that's saved. So the amount of spend you have is saved on this little thing called a Facebook pixel, right? And I didn't have that anymore, right? So all my data was gone. All the spend I had was gone. So I'd have to start from scratch pretty much. If I could even somehow stealth make a Facebook account, which I did. I stealth made another Facebook, but then they banned that one too because I realized it was related, you know. So, like, you know, so I had to have some setbacks, right? Like all people do. You know. But luckily I found out about Amazon shortly after, you know, dropshipping. And I went to that. And, yeah, I went from 0 to 7 figures in less than 5 months doing that. Still working like 18, 20-hour days. And that was so big because at the time, I was like... You know, with Shopify, like I felt like I couldn't pass that point of like 10K a month, you know, and with this business, it was so simple. Like at the time, it was just the easiest. I felt like I was printing money, you know, with it at the time.
What was it like? Break that down. Yeah, that feeling of printing money.
So it was ridiculous, right? At the time. Now you can't do this.
Yeah.
So like I feel like a big part of success is identifying opportunity and then capitalizing on it. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's right place, right time with hard work, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, I don't know if you know much about Amazon dropshipping, but pretty much at the time, you could just hop on, like, these big brand listings. And I think some people still do Amazon dropshipping to this day, which I highly do not recommend, because Amazon would just ban your account. But at the time, you could just hop on these big brand listings and be one of the sellers. And all you do is you'd source that same product once you got a sale. Like, you didn't have to hold any inventory, obviously. And you'd source it from, like, a supplier for much, much cheaper, right? So I'd be selling, like just an example is I'd sell, like, these big desks for, like, $1,500, and I'd source it for, like, $200, you know? And I'd be making, like 10, 20 sales a day, you know? I'd be making, like, 10 to 20K profit, you know, a day off like these like big desks, right? That I'd source from like eBay or like these like you know what was that site called? Wayfair, right?
Okay.
Like that sell like these, you know, sell like all the furniture and stuff. And and it was like printing money. It was free. Like
and then what? Amazon just markets it.
Yeah, and then Amazon does everything. It's like, like there's already a built-in market for these products, right? So I was just like, how's this even legal? Like, this feels like I'm like cheating the system almost,
Did you not want
And
to tell anybody almost?
I didn't, like I'd never tell anyone like what these products were or whatever. But I mean, the big part was like finding the products that were like, making money, obviously. And there's a lot of nuanced things. And I remember I got success so fast, and I was part of like this entrepreneurial group at the time that were like all trying to do the same thing, and I was like posting my results and everything, and they're like, how the fuck, how the hell, because they're all trying to do the same thing, but they weren't getting the same success as me.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because I was working like 18, 20-hour days and they weren't, right? And I remember there were like these meetups every like 3 months, whatever, and we'd all meet up, and I remember like I just felt like the shit, like being like in these groups, right? Like, in person, because they'd always be like asking me like, oh, how are you doing this? And I'm like, but it was like for real, like I was like, how much do you work, And they're like, oh yeah, I spend like an hour, 2 hours. I'm like, dude, like in one day I work more than you do. I work more than one day than you do in a week. In like a week or two. Like, of course I'm gonna do better than you. And I was like, that's your problem. And they're like, oh yeah, And I think out of that group, only like a few ever made it, right? Out of like 100 people.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, but realistically, like 18 to 20 hours days, like break that down into like what that actually looks like. Are you actually only sleeping like 3 to 4 hours a night, and then you're just
like less, like 2 hours probably, because I'd eat.
Okay, but like how are you even functioning? How are you even able to focus?
It was like it was like, I don't know why, but it was like at the time I had this like do or die mindset. Like I don't know what I was running on, because I wasn't taking any like drugs or anything,
Yeah.
I didn't even know about all these drugs now that you can take, like
Adderall and stuff.
like Adderall, modafinil, all this other stuff. I wasn't even on any of that, right? I didn't even know about any of that, but it was just like this pure like desire, that was driving me. And I think it was kind of a fuck you to my parents too, who were always trying to like control my life, right? So I wanted to like, I think that really drove me too, of being able to say like, like I got it on my own, like, like I don't need you guys, because I lived in a very toxic household growing up. I don't really need to dive into that, but let's just say it was really bad growing up. It wasn't like the best childhood, to grow up in. And I feel like, I feel like most people that have come from nothing, they've had bad things happen to them growing up. You don't. I feel like a lot of times you don't just have this insane drive and everything, and your life was all like, oh yeah, everything's sunshine and rainbows, like your entire life, right? So,
for sure.
Yeah. But if I don't know if you want to know like my schedule during that time, but like.
Yeah, you could break down your schedule. I'm interested. Like at like the peak, like where you're like the money was coming in, and like you were getting to that 7-figure mark. What was that schedule like?
Man,
people need to hear this shit, okay?
Yeah.
People need to hear what the grind is like to get to the high numbers.
Yeah, so it wasn't like, it was a really shitty lifestyle at the time. Like like to be like very fair, I didn't take care of my health, that much, if at all. I had no socialization whatsoever. Like the whole time I worked, I was like listening to like some podcast or some motivational YouTube video, and it was like 18, 20 hours a day. Just like, imagine like listening to that every day. Imagine listening to like 20 hours of motivational content from like entrepreneurs the whole time while you're working, and you're working, right? For like months and months and months. That changes your mind.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Like that completely rewires your entire mindset completely. But I was in like this tiny room, like imagine like a 3x3 meter. I don't know if people know what meters are, metric system and all that. But like room, I just had a desk, computer, and I bought the best possible computer I had at the time for like, $500-600. Got the best setup so it could open the most tabs, which was very important. So I invested in my setup, and I had like a mattress on the floor right next to my bed. So like, what I'd do is, this might sound crazy to most people, but I would work, and as soon as I felt like I was about to pass out, like collapse, I started like collapsing my desk. I'd like roll over to my mattress like 1 foot away and just collapse and nap for like 30 minutes to an hour, and then I'll get up and like get back to it, you know. And I had like these like 30-minute, 1 hour like, you know, naps, like, you know, 2 or 3 times a day, right? So I was sleeping like an hour, 2 hours a day max, you know. But and then I'll like like I'd order like food in, so I didn't have to cook, right? I'd just like have Chipotle or something. I still eat Chipotle to this day, right? Yeah,
Oh,
you
Chipotle
know,
is amazing. Yeah.
yeah. Like I'd order like, you know, a $10 bowl or something, or have like one of my roommates like just get me something and I'll just, you know, pay them, you know, Venmo them or something.
Yeah.
But I wasted no time. It was like I was either working or I was, you know, even while I was eating, I was like doing stuff, you know, like I'd just like take a bite and be like, you know, still working, you know. There was no like, oh, I'm gonna like relax somewhere and like, you know, and like watch some TV for like 3 hours. No, like it was like, even while I was eating, I was working. The only time I wasn't working was when I was sleeping, you know, for like, you know, 2 hours, and it was really bad actually. Like, you know, I never really saw the sun, you know, and yeah, at the time I had a girlfriend too. At the time,
Shut
yeah,
up.
yeah,
That's
and
such a
yeah, and like I remember I would like,
bro. You had a girl that like knew you. You didn't have a girlfriend. Okay, let's be
yeah,
real.
exactly, yeah, no, sure. I'm very sorry to her because you know, she was a good girl at the time for me, but
Yeah.
you know, things don't work out when those things happen, right? When you're
Yeah.
working that much. Like I remember I'd schedule her
And
in.
let.
I'd be like, hey baby, you know, Saturday from this time, I have a 1 hour time slot. We can hang out, you know, and then you gotta go. You know, it was that sort of thing, right? But this was like,
Yeah.
you know, this is during that time. It was like this was a very long time ago, like 7 8 years
Yeah.
ago, you know,
Yeah. In
and
that grind stage, you almost need a girl that's like, fully dedicated to what you're doing and like they're like, servicing you in that grind stage.
yeah. Well, like here's the thing, like, you know, I was still in college and I didn't I didn't know about all these concepts too about relationships and like how your girl has to support you, you know,
Yeah.
like spiritually, and you have to be the man and all this other stuff. Like this is like all this relationship stuff with women I've only kind of known the past like 3 4 years, I'd say. Like once I already got to like I'd say an extremely high level of success, and now it's very important to me. Like, you know, I need a girl. I'm in a relationship right now, and she's fantastic. Like, you know, she supports me. Like she, you know, organizes everything for me. Like, you know, makes me food and, you know,
Yeah. That's
keeps the
awesome.
house clean and everything. Like I think Luke has
Uh-huh.
the same with her girl. Like we talk
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's extremely important, you know, to have a girl that supports you. I'd say even at the beginning, if you're a girl that doesn't understand like your journey and what you're doing, like, oh, like, you know, work less, hang out with me, all this other stuff. It's like if she doesn't get it, like you're not gonna achieve your goals, right?
Yeah.
And then you got to decide, right, whether you still want to be with that girl, you know, if she's not gonna be 100% down for you, right? So
Yeah. 100%.
yeah, but anyways, yeah, I did that. Yeah, that was pretty much my schedule at the time. Uh, it wasn't glorious, you know. I
So,
cut out everyone I knew, you know. I barely even talked to like my brother, you know.
oh
So
my God. Wait, so
yeah,
do you regret that period now that you've experienced so much success? Like, do you wish that you didn't do that period of like absolute uh, monk mode focus and just wish, you had a little more patience in the micro to get to the success, or are you just like, I'm glad it happened because I got there faster?
I I feel like now I can't regret it because it happened, right?
Yeah.
And it's what has made me who I am today. But sure, like there were probably better things I could have done, right? I would have taken my health a lot more seriously because I realized that a healthy body equals a healthy mind, and it would have made my hours very productive, right? I didn't know all these things. All I knew was to do was the work, you know.
Hmm.
So maybe now, if I could go back, right, maybe I'd optimize things a little more, right? Like sleep a little more, because it would have made my hours like more productive,
Yeah.
uh, you know. So and I would have worked a lot smarter, you know, than you know I, you know, did back in the day, because I feel like back then it was just pure hustle, but I wasn't really working. Like looking back, I wasn't working very smart, right? I could have
Yeah.
outsourced a lot of the things I did, for like VAs for like $4 an hour.
Yeah, you were just
Right?
doing everything, which is
I was
usually
doing
the
I was
case of
doing
the.
literally everything. I was doing literally everything myself. I was running a 7-figure business, by myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't very healthy, but no, I can't regret it because I am where I am now, and I feel like that period of immersion really changed me, like fundamentally as a person. Like I went from like this guy who like partied a lot, like pretty much degenerate, kind of immature, to like people didn't even recognize me after, like after I got the success and I like came out of my little hut, my
Yeah.
little room,
Well, you were probably emaciated. That's why they didn't recognize you.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and like people like were like, "Oh, what happened to Gav? Like he's completely different. Like all he talks about is success, and like all he wants to talk about is money." It's like weirdo. It's like he thinks he's better than everyone now. It's like.
You're probably talking to them while you have like an earbud in, listening to motivational entrepreneurs.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I got you. Yeah. No, seriously. Like, even when I was out, like, even when I stopped working like 18, 20 hour days, like, and I was working like, I consider it chill when I like stopped that and I did like 12 or 14, you know, and I like started like actually going outside a little more, because I started like, actually outsourcing some of the stuff and getting VAs, but I'd still be working, pretty insane hours, I'd say, at the time, right? But I remember I would like be talking to my old college friends, and I would be, yeah, I would I would be listening to something, while I'm talking to them, and they're talking about like at the time it was like, damn, like they're talking about like bullshit, like
They
they're talking
talk
about
about like people and stuff.
talking about other people, talking about how like, oh, this person, that person, like just like bad energy, and I was like, why am I hanging out with these people? And I feel like
Yeah.
that really, like, it really changed how I viewed my time as well, because I started valuing my time a lot more, right? And the people I have around me. Like now, it's really hard to be friends with me, right? Like if I don't feel like that person is on a similar path to me, and we don't have a lot of the same exact like mindsets and views about life and how to approach life, like there's a very low chance we'll become like actually like, friends. I'm sure like you're the same way, right? Like you probably
Yeah.
have a very small circle. It's probably just you, your brothers, and maybe like a mentor or one or two other people, right? Like who are genuinely like down for you, right?
Yeah.
It's a
That's you.
very very small circle.
Yeah. That's you. That's usually how it goes. Your circle gets smaller as you gain traction in life, and well, it's just like, I mean, that you just don't connect with the people as much. It's like, I mean, are you friends with any of the people that you went to school with still?
No, no,
Yeah.
I'm not friends with a single one of them. And I remember like all these people that used to like talk shit about me, back in college. You know,
Yeah.
they're like literally asking me on Instagram or whatever for like a job or something. Like, do you need help with anything? Oh, I see you living like this great life or whatever. And it's just like so like, and I just ignore it. And then they like write other messages like, oh, like you think you're so good now, blah blah, and all this other like shit. But like they weren't, you know, they were like terrible, like you know, like they're just sneaky people,
Yeah.
at the time. And it's like, yeah, it's like it's funny how when you have something, everyone wants to like get something off of you, right? You realize a lot about people,
Yeah, no,
like
for sure.
so.
Because I think like you can like in that situation, yeah, it's not like you're not going to stay friends with them, especially if they're like that, right? But there are times where like you have older friends and stuff that still support you, even if they're on a little different path, right? There's just a little bit more of that disconnection because they're not on the same path. But like
Yeah.
in your case, like those guys are like they're not friends. They're resentment. They have resentment towards you. Like they're not, uh, they're not helping you win or like wanting you to win even.
Yeah, like they just don't. Yeah, like you just can't relate, you know. And it's like, like how they say like it's lonely at the top or whatever. You know, it's true and it's not true, right? I'd say like it's true in the sense that you relate to a lot less people, right? Because most people are very average,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't really relate when they talk about having like a regular job and all that stuff. But on the other hand, if you go to like the right places, you meet a lot of people that have a similar mindset. If you go to the right events and the right places, the right masterminds, and the right groups, you do
Mm-hmm.
actually. There's actually a lot of people at the top, I'd say, but you do have to make an effort to meet them.
Yeah.
I'd say.
What were some good ones that you went to, like specifically?
Uh, like masterminds or groups.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's changed over the years. Like nowadays, I'm pretty selective with like the groups I join. And a lot of times I join a group and it's like not what I think it is. So
Mm.
I don't know if I want to plug in other groups here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's there were like a few like high level ones where you have to pay like 20K to be a part of it or something, and they like they vet you. You have to hop on a call or whatever, and I'd only join groups where the person who was kind of in charge of it had like a similar lifestyle that I lived or
Mm.
that I wanted to, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like not to be like too like cryptic, but it's I feel like once you achieve a certain level, you want to find people that are around your age that are doing similar things or even like bigger things than you in a different way, right? And if you have to pay to be part of it, like you have money now, so it's like why not pay like 20-30K or whatever it is, to be a part of it and be around like-minded people, because that's like a vetting process in and of itself, and like if you're screened, as well, it's worth it, And I mean, there were groups I didn't have to pay to be a part of, like I've made some pretty good friends over the years, well, like or pretty good acquaintances, I'd say,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
they have their own groups and they invite you to be a part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're around very very solid people, and
Mm-hmm.
it's very important to still have like that, what's that word for it, like
Community.
like community, but like having like a squad, like having like a good solid network of really solid people, because at the high levels it's all about pretty much pulling your resources together to get to that next level. Like someone has like a skill you don't have, someone has something you don't have, and you just combine your synergies together, you know, to get that success, right? To get to
Mm-hmm.
that next level, right?
So
So
what are a couple of examples of you doing that?
yeah, I mean, what I do right now is a perfect example of that, right? Like I couldn't have achieved like a 9-figure business if I didn't partner, with other high net worth people, right?
Yeah.
Like I can only do so much on my own, right? So
So what was the
uh,
cap before you get
like
into that? Like what was the cap for yourself before you had to network?
yeah, so I was doing I was doing 8 figures, pretty comfortably, right? Which is you know not shit, it's not bad, not bad at all, right?
Yeah.
But I was always looking at the next level, and I was thinking, okay, how do I, I want to make, like not even 9 figures, but how do I get to like, the goal right now is to, be a billionaire, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how do I reach 10 figures, and I'm still looking for it, I'm still, networking and meeting new people who could possibly help, right? New partnerships, right? But yeah, I was stuck at like low eights for a while, and by while, well, if I'm stuck at like a place for more than like a year, I feel like it's a long time, you know. So I was like, okay, how do I get to the next level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was just, yeah, I just started to partner with other people, like utilizing other people's money. Like you have to realize like what in your business is holding you back, right? Like bottlenecks, right? I'm sure you have those too in yours.
Yeah, for sure.
Like what's holding you back, and then realizing, okay, like I have this problem, right? Whether it's not enough people, not enough money, et cetera, both. Okay, like what's the best way to find, you know, to have more money, right? Like how do I get access to, you know, $20 million, an extra 20 mil, 30 mil, whatever? How do I get access to good people? oh, maybe there's someone in a network I could join who has, trained staff, for e-commerce that are trustworthy people, and I can just pay them a little more, but I can scale faster, right? Maybe, maybe someone has, $5-10 million to invest into something, into somebody that they can trust, right? And produce them cash flow, right? And just, split profits, whatever, right? So it's thinking things on a macro scale rather than micro, right? And I started doing that, and I did that for, I'm still doing it to this day, right? I've been doing that the past few years, like, 3-4 years. And yeah, I mean, that's what's enabled me to get to the numbers I have now. Like last year I did 110, right? So it's like not bad. And yeah, I just want to I just want to do better, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
How do you vet people in terms of like doing business with them
yeah,
and
so
like trusting them as a person?
yeah, I mean it's hard, man. I feel like nowadays you have to be such a good judge of character, and there's no like secret, really. It comes from experience, let's say, because I've been fucked over and scammed so many times. Yeah, business partners fucking me over, people scamming me over some service or something, So, but I'd say like with experience, you start to realize that like these patterns that people have of when they're like a sneaky like person, right? I'd say, and I don't know, this might sound very like woo woo, but like you just know, like you just feel it, like you just know, like, oh, like something just doesn't add up here, like this person like talks a good talk, but they're actually like I wouldn't do business with them, right? And of course, like I have like my network. I ask my network if like they're a solid person as well, like if you've heard anything about them, because nowadays you can't run away from your reputation, right? Like everybody knows if you scam someone now, you can't just get away with that shit. Like you could maybe back in like the 60s or something, and you didn't have the internet, Now I can just ask my network like, hey, is this person a good person to do business with? And someone's heard something about them, right? Like I have a network of like thousands of people that are at like a high level, and then they'll tell me stuff like, oh, like yeah, like, oh, this guy scammed by hundreds of people or whatever, like a few years ago, but he's been trying to keep on the DL, or like, oh, or yeah, where it's like, oh, this person, he's been legit, the past like 10 years, and I can vouch for him, like I've done business with him, he's a good guy, whatever. And yeah, and it's like a lot of it is based off that, and then also hopping on a call or whatever if they're in a different part of the country, meeting up with them in person, of course, is the best.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, you have to know the things to spot out for, yeah, but it just comes down to experience. I'd say like one of the best things you can do, like with your money, is get scammed. Of course, limit the scam, but it's like you what are you gonna do? Just like hole up and just like never take a risk, Like you're gonna get scammed a few times, like, but but I think of it as like money well spent. It's like you learn so many things about people, and
yeah, 100%. So what was like your biggest lessons learned from scaling from like 7 to 9 figures, and like what were some adversity points potentially?
Yeah. So I actually talked about this with Luke on another podcast.
Nice.
And I think he told me about a similar thing. I think you were probably involved, but it was like I bought a lot of inventory.
That's exactly what we
yeah. That didn't sell. But I mean, that's long story short, but it was like, yeah, we projected this amount of inventory to sell, bought a shit ton of it. And yeah, it just didn't meet the the projections. And then you have like, I had like,
by how much? How much did it not meet?
like millions, like millions of dollars worth of inventory. I think you guys had like $500,000 or something, right?
Yeah.
Through off all your guys' stuff.
Yeah.
And Luke thought that was hilarious.
So, such a
Yeah,
stupid air.
yeah, but it's like believing in the best instead of being realistic, right? It's like,
Yeah, well, it's an emotional decision instead of like a logical data driven decision, right? It's like instead
yeah,
of saying, "Oh, these products like sold, so they're gonna sell," it's like you don't even know if they're gonna sell or not.
exactly. It's like it's like almost greedy, I'd say. It's almost like you're gambling at that point,
Yeah,
right? It's like you might as well just go to Vegas and put on black or something, right?
it's like putting money in a meme coin during a bull market, you know?
Exactly. It's like all these shit coins, right?
Yeah,
That I think we recently had another little mini shitcoin season or whatever. I was part of like
yeah,
a few chats that people were talking about it, and then
yeah,
I don't really like to get involved too much in those, but yeah, but it can be very tempting, to
yeah.
just you see all these people like, you know, oh, I made like 100x, 1000x. You see like these stories of like, oh, like of $200 I made 80 mil or something. It's like it's like it's shit like that can like,
Yeah, you can't take your money out, you idiot. Something like that.
yeah, exactly. So it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, you see all that, but I feel like nowadays you have to be just like stay laser focused on what you're doing, and that'll give you the highest ROI. Like, sure, there's all this shiny stuff that can make you a little bit of quick profit, but if you just use that time and energy, to just double down on what you're doing, that'll give you the highest ROI, right? But
yeah,
back to the story,
100%.
I'm like jumping around, but like, yeah, I forecast way too much inventory, didn't sell during Q4 like I anticipated. Had to like dispose of most of it because of all the storage fees. So yeah, it was just a shit show.
You have to dispose of it. Oh yeah, the storage fees were probably crazy. It was a bigger item.
Yeah, it was like big items, and I had like tens of thousands of units. Like ridiculous. Like
Yeah,
I was paying so much in storage fees, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna be like, because it was like, you're losing money every day,
yeah,
and it's not selling. And I was like, okay, like I have to dispose of it. It's not gonna sell, you know. Like there's nothing I can really do. I tried everything to like push out the inventory, but I just bought way too much, and then like competition came in and shit. Like like someone had like a similar product, or other people were selling the same product, and it was just like
yeah.
not a good situation, So yeah.
Wow. So was that like the main one? Was there any other big?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, there's a lot, man, but it's like that was like a big one, I'd say. Another one was having one of my main Amazon accounts get like suspended.
Mm.
And when Amazon suspends your account, like all your cash flow and inventory is like tied up. So it's like the same thing almost as buying too much inventory, right? Because you can't, utilize that money. Like I had like millions of dollars stuck, millions of dollars of cash and inventory stuck in the account. So that was a bad one. And then it took like a while to get that back. So now I diversify a little more, right? That's why I actually do partnerships. I utilize other people because you're technically only allowed one Amazon seller account, and Amazon knows.
Makes sense.
But now I utilize other people's Amazon accounts as well, and utilize their capital, and so I have a lot more risk diversification, right? And that's helped a lot. So like having all your eggs in one basket is never a good thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's been a big lesson as well. Like just yeah.
So what's driving you to get to $1 billion? Like, are you just always looking for more, always looking for growth?
I think it's like a curse, man. Or it's like you're cursed with like ambition, I'd say.
Yeah.
Like I just like sure I could just chill now. Like I'm pretty much like retired. I could just cash out my businesses, sell them, whatever. But it's like then what I do? It's like like life is boring. Like
Yeah.
I could go do a bunch of like hedonistic shit. Like but it's like I've done that. I've done that. Like like back when I got success, like I took my foot off the gas pedal for like a little bit, like a year or two, and I just traveled the world. And
Like what level? Like 8 figures?
when I hit like mid 7, I started to I was like, oh, I would do like all that travel shit, And at the time I was single and whatever, and I did all the whole like, yachts and models and Monaco and all that stuff,
Yeah.
like all the influencers and uh, it was just it was very hedonistic, but it was. I mean, I don't regret it. It was very fun. I'd say,
Uh-huh.
I'd never, and I was single, so it was like, yeah, why not? Are you in a relationship, by the way?
No, I'm single.
Okay, yeah. So it's like, and you're like 20 something, 20,
21.
21, yeah. So it's like, yeah, I was like around your age, and and when you're single and you have money, it's like, you know, I wanna do like, you know, I wanna do like, awesome shit, and like all I care about was like, partying and girls at the time, and
Yeah. Wait, so how awesome is it though compared to being in a relationship that you're in right now?
it's a very different feeling.
So-
It
yeah.
it it's like being in a relationship. I never thought I'd be in a relationship really, like after like my college relationship, if you want to call it that, where I'd see her one hour a week, you know. uh,
Mhm.
I'll say like this relationship was my first real relationship, the one I'm in now. But I'm a completely different person. So it's very different than being single and running around like you know just having like pointless casual encounters with models and stuff like that, and going to all these parties and you know it, it's it's a lot less fulfilling, I'd say. Like being in a relationship, it's different, man. You have this much. It's a lot less fun, I'd say. Of course, it's not, like in terms of like pure, whatever. But
Yeah.
but you have a lot more fulfillment,
Well, you don't have the
and
chase
you don't have to chase
aspect.
anymore. Yeah, you do it
But it's
like
like building a business, it's like building a business compared to investing in a shit coin, if that
exactly.
means
Yeah, exactly. It's like
delayed gratification.
I'll compare like models and like Instagram models and influencers and all that stuff to like a shitcoin,
To moon on the shit coin.
and like
Yeah.
riding on a shitcoin for a bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then like just wasting like your time and money, than having a solid chick that's like a blue chip, like a blue chip like stock or something, right?
Yeah.
Not
It's
to
true.
compare women,
It's
not to
actually
compare.
worse than a shit coin. It's actually worse than a shit coin because you're losing money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, not to compare women to like investments,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like shit coins and all that, but it's like, I
Yeah.
mean, it's true. Like, if you invest, your time and money, into a solid check, the dividends and ROI of that are much greater. And if you're trying to build
Yeah.
something, like if you're trying to get to big numbers, it's very hard, when you're always chasing the next thing. Like you're chasing the next girl, chasing the next party, chasing the next, you know, chasing the next event. Because I can do that right now. Like I'm part of like groups where I can literally party in the best locations in the world every single week. You know, drop like whatever, like 20K a week, and have the best lifestyle. Like, like not like Dan B level, but like, you know, like but pretty close.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's like, yeah, but what do you really get out of that? You have casual sex
Yeah.
with like some chick, like you get nothing out of that.
Yeah.
Like
Who's probably
sure,
had
it's like
sex with a bunch of other guys.
yeah, exactly. Like
In that party,
they've
yeah.
all been ran through by like
Yeah.
celebrities and athletes and stuff, and like you're
Yeah.
never gonna be in a relationship with this chick. Like she's not relationship material. Like you never go long term with them, or ever. I mean, ever have kids with them or anything. So it's like what's the point? Like sure, it's fun to like get that out of your system when you're young, right? Like I'm glad I got out of my system, but I'm trying to like build stuff like that. That's
Yeah.
so much more fulfilling, right? Like building like something for your life, right? Like like building the next thing is always going to be the best experience in your life, right? Like, and I recently, started traveling, with my girl that I'm in a relationship with, and
Mhm.
it's a very like different feeling, it's very fulfilling in a way. Yeah, and this is coming from someone who did the most hedonistic stuff, like
Traveling with a girl specifically, like in terms of like Like living
Like,
like the nomad lifestyle with her?
yeah, exactly. Like living a month in, each place and doing all that, and you know, but I mean, you do have to, be with the right chick, be with the right
Hmm.
girl, to do
Hmm.
that. Like, they have to understand, like, yeah, you'll still be working while traveling, but you are in a new place and you know, experiencing new things. But yeah, your girl has to understand. And yeah, I never thought I'd be in this situation, like being my age now, like because I hadn't been in a relationship since my college relationship, like
Hmm.
7 years ago. So it's like, yeah, it's and like learning all about like you're the man, you have to protect and provide, and all this other stuff, and your woman has to spiritually protect you, right, and support you in your goals, right? Like there has to be that yin and yang, right? Like each person has their different roles and does them, right? And yeah, and yeah, it's just very very fulfilling. I'd say yeah, for
Yeah.
relationships,
Hmm.
yeah.
So was there a difference in like lifestyle and stuff from like 8 to 9 figures, or
That's a good
difference in your
question.
mindset?
I'm trying to think. Like for lifestyle, I'd say when you have like low eights, like 10 to 20, it's about the same. It's like you're like what are you really gonna buy? It's like, I mean, you can't buy like jets and yachts, but you can always rent them. You can always charter them.
Yeah.
So it's like the difference in lifestyle is not really that much. You know, I mean, maybe you look at the price tag a little less. Of stuff. You know, like I remember I used to like if I flew like private. You know, I would actually look at the tab. Or something. It's like, oh shit, that costs like 30K. Like, like that actually it's like that still kind of hurts. you know,
Yeah.
it's like, oh damn, I spent that much. Okay, but yeah, like just maybe just like casually, like just looking at that less. Like, if I buy like a car or something, like I bought like a Rari like recently, and
Uh-huh.
not really looking at like not being like, oh, like damn, that's a big like, oh, that's a big blow. 400K, that's a big blow. To my bank account or something like that. It's like, but yeah, besides that, it's like it's not a big difference in lifestyle. I'd say, you know.
Hmm.
So, but in terms of mindset, it's yeah, I think like thinking very collaboratively with people and always trying to find good people. I think that's I think that's been the shift. You know, like not being just solely focused on like my business and myself, right?
Yeah.
And just meeting you know other like-minded successful people and seeing if I can partner with them on something, right? So it's I mean that's like the main focus now. It's like I don't work nearly as much as I used to. Like these days, you know like if I'm in Vegas, which is where I'm based out of, it's like
Yeah.
you know I mean, sure, those days I'll still work like 10 hours, 12 hours, whatever. But like I don't need to. It's I'm gonna get to the next level by partnering with people rather than like doing all the little micro stuff because everything's running by itself. You know, I just have that like a team meeting every like week. Just to make sure everything's not like going bad or whatever. But like yeah, but besides that, it's
Most of the work's delegated out. Most of the work's happening outside. So anything that you're doing is more like, bigger vision type of strategy and collaboration type
yeah,
work.
exactly. Like you get it right.
Yeah.
Like your business right now is like probably in like the 8 figure mark, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, it's like just finding like you know new people to partner with and like I don't know like I don't want to interview you or like like just have like the like what bottlenecks you guys have, but it's like
Yeah.
like I'm sure there's
It's usually
bottlenecks.
people at at that level.
Yeah, it's all people. Yeah,
Yeah, it's all
it's either
people.
like it's either people, high quality people that you need to hire, or it's high quality people that you need to partner with, right, to get more sales and clients or whatever, right, who can bring
Hmm.
in more people.
Hmm.
It's either one of those, right? It's usually one of those things, right,
Hmm.
at a high level. Right? It's no longer like whatever the little micro is like, you know,
Yeah.
whatever it is. I think it's like
Uh-huh.
you guys are doing like the press stuff, right? So
Hmm.
yeah.
So, so like, what's your schedule look like now? Like, are you Like you said, you're sometimes working less and stuff. So how do you plan your days now that it's more optional per
Yeah.
se?
So as evidenced by this morning, uh, yeah, I pretty much, I'm pretty, yeah, I take care of my health a lot more now. I'd say I I focus a lot on my health. Uh, like, make sure I exercise every day. Stretch, do yoga,
Hmm.
because I've realized now it's all about making like one or two great decisions every day. It's all about like, because now I have all the
Yeah.
resources. I have everything I need, but I just need to think, you know, or like meet new people. It's like I just need to like make that decision because I have so much leverage. Like one decision can either make me millions of dollars or cost me millions of dollars. You know, so it's all about putting my brain in the best possible mental state, right? So it's like, I take like, here, I'll show you this. My girl does this for me.
Okay. Okay.
She like packs all my pills in like a box.
That's, bro, that's what you're supposed to have at like 9 years old.
Yeah, and I like take that every day, right?
What are those pills, bro? What are you taking every day?
It's like it's all these like different like herbs and just health. Like none of it's like really artificial or anything.
Yeah.
It's like, it's all these like it could be like ginger, turmeric, some like weird herb that's supposed to like help your testosterone or something, or like help
Yeah,
your
yeah.
brain function.
Like Tribulus.
Yeah, yeah, tribulus or fiducia, all that
Yeah.
stuff. I'm sure you know all about that, all that
Yeah, no,
weird
I
stuff.
do Tribulus, maca root, seven sacred mushroom powder,
Mm.
ashwagandha,
Yeah.
creatine,
Hmm.
and
Yep.
some magnesium.
Yeah, magnesium's good. Taking it
Yeah.
right before you sleep. Yeah, all that stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, like so, like yeah, like so like it's focusing on
Hmm.
all those little things. Maybe I just have a few more pills than you, maybe, but
Yeah.
but yeah,
I
like
do more powders.
oh no, that's the thing with I do some powders. I do like the AG1 powder, like the greens powder, all that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. You want to have like easily digestible forms of greens. Eating vegetables is actually terrible for you. Uh, because your body spends more energy digesting them than actually absorbing the nutrients, right?
Yeah, no, we're on a fully like grass-fed diet, grass-fed meat diet.
Nice. Yeah, that's
Like
that's the best shit.
steaks every day, ground beef every day,
Nice. Yeah,
and then
like
like a
like
smooth.
bison meat and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, mainly cow, I would say.
Yeah, no, beef
Yeah,
is really good. Steak is like the best food you can possibly eat.
bro, it's insane. And I fry it in a shit ton of grass-fed butter. Like our diet's on point.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no, like I cook it in organic butter. I
Oh
have
yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah, like sous vide machine, all that stuff. It's well, my girl does it now, so but yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So like that's the thing. Like having a supportive girl is important. Like all you have to focus on is work, and then she takes care of all that stuff. Like like am I gonna organize all those pills? I remember I used to like just grab bottles. Like I have like 60 of these bottles, of different like shit,
Yeah.
on my desk.
Listen.
But she organizes all of them and like places in each slot, and I'm like, there's no way I can do that. She spends like over an hour or two each
Bro,
time.
look at this shit, man. Look at this is what happens. This is what happens when you're single, bro.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like you're not
Yeah,
gonna do that by
yeah,
yourself, right? Like I think
yeah.
as men, like we can't do those things. Like we're not good at those things, especially for people like us. Like so it's important. But yeah, like nowadays, like yeah, like optimizing your health, and I'm sure you're big about that, based off like what you know. I'm sure
Hmm.
you're always looking for the next health thing, the next health hack, whatever. Like I drink like a dozen raw eggs at night, things like that. Yeah,
Shut up.
yeah, yeah. And she cracks them for me and everything. She like puts them in like
A
a cup.
dozen, bro?
Yeah,
A dozen?
yeah.
Bro, that's disgusting. Why are you drinking raw eggs?
I'm telling you, if you drink a dozen raw eggs, it'll change your life. What am I telling you that?
I mean, I eat eggs. Like, I have, like, 5 or 6, scrambled maybe, or, like, a sunny
Oh no,
side. But, like,
no. You have to drink them raw, man. Yeah, I used to do that. I used to eat them like cooked and everything.
uh,
Nah, but you get the
okay,
most.
get.
It's the most easily digestible form, and in eggs, you're losing a lot of nutrients when you're cooking them, right?
Yeah,
So
you cook them on low heat.
yeah, you still but you're still losing nutrients by cooking them, right? So like, and it's the most easily digestible for your body. Like the things I think about are foods that are easily digestible, right? Like, I think the only thing that isn't like super easy digestible is maybe like steak, but I still eat a lot of steak. So you have to make up for it in quantity. So I have like 4 pounds of steak every day, and I have like a dozen raw eggs, So it's like that's pretty much all I eat. And
You
some
have
fruit.
4 pounds of steak?
Yeah, about roughly 4 pounds. Yeah, yeah.
That's a good
But like
amount. How much you weigh?
I weigh almost 180 right now.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I've always been able to eat a lot too. You could ask Luke. Like we went to like a hot pot place.
Oh yeah.
After the event, but yeah, it's yeah, I can eat a lot, right?
Uh-huh.
And yeah, and I'm still very lean. Like I still have like my six pack and everything. So
Well, yeah, that's what happens when you eat this type of diet.
yeah,
People just don't
exactly.
understand. People are eating the processed garbage that or fill up the grocery stores, fill up the world, and it's just like they just have no idea what's happening. Well,
Exactly.
also the premium quality like stuff is more expensive.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, you don't like grass fed is like kind of on another level. Like if you're trying to like save money, even Chipotle is like pretty good. It has seed oils and shit, but like
Yeah, yeah,
still like has like pretty good nutrients and like
yeah.
diversity of plants and stuff.
Exactly. Like I'd say Chipotle is probably like besides the seed oils, it's probably one of the healthiest things you can eat. In terms of like getting nutrients and stuff. But nowadays I prefer just eat like organic grass fed beef and all that. But
Yeah,
it
100%.
takes if the schedule's a little hectic and because you have to wait to eat it and all that stuff, right? If you're traveling or whatever, it's hard to like get organic grass fed beef, like cook it in like with the
Yeah,
sous vide machine.
what's it like? I mean, if you're doing like the month to month traveling and stuff.
It's harder, man. And also, you want to experience the new foods, right? Like, I
Yeah,
think
that's
when I'm
true.
at home, well, I know, like, when I'm at home and I have my own base and my setup and everything, of course, it's very easy to have organic only meals, right? Organic everything, organic sauces, seasonings, beef, whatever, it's very easy. But when you're traveling, it's, I just came back from, like, Japan, and, Sydney, Australia and all that. And,
Hmm.
yeah, I want to experience the food. Like,
For sure.
like you want to have a fine balance, right? Of course, like don't eat like shit, the majority of the time. But
Yeah, like you can ignore like Oreos and Cheetos and all that bullshit, right? But you can like still eat like the cultural food there.
yeah, exactly. Like, you know, it's fine as long as like it's not the majority of your diet. And I mean, most of the time you can find like the cleanest option of like the culture of food that you're eating. I don't think it's the culture of food you're eating is like fried chicken or something. You know, so I
Yeah,
mean, you go to Japan, all you're having is seafood, like fresh seafood. So it's like it's
yeah,
not really that bad for you, right?
yeah.
So
Like
if you go,
really fresh seafood, good
it's
stuff.
really like you've been to Japan, right?
I don't know.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Luke
I
has.
know. I know Luke. Yeah, I know Luke
Yeah,
was there
yeah.
recently.
Luke went
So,
recently. Yeah,
but yeah, like Japan has like super fresh seafood, like obviously, best sushi in the world, whatever you want to call it.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, just having like the sashimi option or whatever, not having too much like that white rice processed shit. But you can still try it obviously because you're there. But
Hmm.
yeah, and just yeah, it's not bad for you at all. Just
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
It's not gonna be as
Hmm.
good as an organic grass fed beef or whatever, but
Yeah.
you can have that at home.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, it's all good stuff.
So, so what else changed with the nine-figure lifestyle besides the health factor?
The health factor, uh, health, lifestyle. I don't know, man. I'm actually trying to think. It's yeah. Besides like collaborations and health and like going to like high level events and stuff, I don't know. I'm a pretty like I don't know. Like being in a relationship is also different. Like you're not gonna be like partying on yachts anymore or anything. But it's like
Yeah.
you know, it, I'm sure. I mean, you could bring her, but it's like it's kind of hedonistic. But eh, yeah, not much has changed. It's like I feel like at heart I'm still a very simple guy. Like I came from nothing, right?
Yeah.
Uh, like yeah, I spend money on what I want to spend money on. Uh, yeah, and I think it's just yeah, I just reinvest pretty much everything, you know, back into
Yeah.
the business. I mean, it's good to just it's good to have like like those milestones you have on like your vision board of like, oh, I want this, and I want this. Like, I
Yeah.
want to like,
Let's go into the vision board. What does that look like?
yeah. So, I'm trying to hit. Uh, I'm trying to be a billionaire before I hit 30, so I have like 3 more years, pretty much, 3 and a bit, 3.5. So that's like the main vision board goal, you know. And it doesn't have to be like liquid cash or something. It's like, you know,
Yeah.
if
Net worth.
as long as net worth is like a bill, like I can sell my business, or I have like, you know, uh, you know, multiple 9 figures in like crypto or something. It's like, and I add everything together, and it's like, you know, just over a bill. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, you know, like then it's like that. So it doesn't have to be like, oh, I have to have like 10 digits in my bank account. That's just stupid, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that's like the main goal. I and wait, actually, yeah.
How detailed is
I've
it?
actually,
Like,
I've actually,
how detailed is it? Like, do you have like, like strategies in place around it? Like, I'm always interested how detailed the goals go. Were they always detailed? Like, how did you kind of grow into the vision board, and how did you make it better?
yeah. So, well, most of my vision board goals are like monetary in nature. So I feel like if I achieve my main overarching one, every other one kind of achieves itself. You know,
Yeah.
like on my vision board, I have it on my phone. It's like, you know, I want like, you know, like a jet, you know, like a nice jet, like a Gulfstream or something, like a G5 or a G6, you know, and those cost like 80 mil or whatever. So it's like, I can't really buy one without like seriously affecting everything. I'm not gonna sell everything and buy one.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of stupid. But yeah, it's things like that where, it's just a vision board goal, and it's not even like it's just to like achieve it. It's I feel like it was just like when I first made out the goal to become a millionaire. It's like, yeah, it's a good feeling, yeah, when you achieve something that you set out to do, like getting the Lambo. It's not about the fucking Lambo. It's not really that impressive, but
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I achieved it. It feels good. Getting the Rari. Same thing. It's like, oh, I never would have, in like when I was younger, like thought I'd ever have a Rari. So it's just like cool to like just see your visions, become reality. And everything on my vision board that I've ever put on it, I've achieved. I've never set out to do something and not achieved it in my life. It's
Do you
like,
think that's because it's on the vision board?
maybe, yeah. I mean, it definitely plays a big part, I'd say.
Yeah. Like, I'm
Like,
interested in the visualization of things, right? Because like it is definitely a factor in what you do, right? If you're not visualizing something, on a weekly or even a daily basis, then it's not consistently on your mind. It's not subconsciously in your thoughts and like, what you're doing and driving towards on a daily basis.
exactly. Like, you don't know why you're doing what you're doing if you're not, visualizing. And like before, I had like an official vision board, like a physical one. I think I always had in my head of what I want my life to like be like. I'd always like, you could even call it like a visualization exercise, but I just did it like before I even knew about all these exercises and practices you can do and all these detailed stuff. I just thought about it every day. Like I'd watch like YouTube videos of like extravagant stuff, and yeah, and if my mind ever strayed from work, it was like thinking about that stuff. It was, so yeah, like long before I had a physical vision board, because the physical vision board only came about like 3 years ago. Like, so I was already like a multi-millionaire before I had a physical vision board, but it was always up here. Every day I'd like imagine like, what I wanted my life to be like. Every day I wanted to like live a life where I could wake up and, do whatever I want, right? Be wherever I want, hang out with who I want, do whatever the hell I want, and, it was like, actually, I take back a little bit of what I said in terms of not having an exercise. I actually did do an exercise back in the day, and I forgot who it was. But it was like this entrepreneur who talked about, imagine like your perfect day, like your perfect normal day, and like write it out what your perfect day is. And I think ever since I did that, like like 7 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever. Like, that has always been in my head, of like, just, what I want my life to be like, right? And I've pretty much like achieved it now, but it's like, but now it's like new goals. Now it's like, putting new stuff on the vision board. Like, I remember I also wanted to have, like, one of the things on my vision board was actually having, a really like cool, supportive girlfriend, actually, and like back when I was doing all this hedonistic stuff, it's like, it'd actually be really cool to be with like, because I hadn't experienced it, it's like, I feel like in life it's all about new experiences, and, being in a relationship, like, I really wanted to like, experience that, right? And see, like, not see what the hype is about, but like, it's like, but I wanted to see if it like worked better with achieving my goals, and I can say with that
with a girl.
Yeah, like, you'll achieve your goals much faster with the right girl, rather than.
And it'll probably be better to achieve it with someone than by yourself.
Exactly, like, it's like, sure, you can achieve all this shit, but it's like, it's cool to like share it with someone, like, take take a girl that deserves it, like, don't be fucking gold dug, but like the right chick who deserves all, the fine things in life, and a girl who hasn't experienced much in her life, right? Like, you probably don't want to date a model or an influencer. Of course, she has to still be attractive, but like, not a girl who's been ran through and like has traveled to Dubai and Miami and, model, you know what I mean, like that type of girl.
Yeah. No, I'm going to church meetups now, so.
Good place. Yeah. So
bro,
yeah,
people
like,
don't know where to find girls, man. You go to the fucking library, you go to the church meetups, like that's where the good girls are. Okay, they're not at the club, they're not at these like parties and shit. Like, are you kidding me? People are.
They're not. You like, girls like that hate going to places like.
Well, you just have to think about their mindset. Like, you have to put yourself in the other person's shoe of why they're going to that place, right? So, like, we hosted parties in Miami. I'm not a huge partier, but we host them, right? So it's cool, it's sick. Like, with my brothers, there's not really that energy for me to like hook up with a random girl, right? But when girls are coming to that party, there's kind of that energy, right? And so you have to just understand where their energy is in what they're doing, right? If they're going to a church meetup, then they're probably trying to find another, godly faith-based man, and faith is based on a guide on the way to live life, and so that their values are going to be more, secure and based than someone going to a party or a club.
Yeah, and it's not like a perfect model, right? But you have a much higher chance.
For sure. No, of course. Right. Nothing's a perfect model. You're never going to have like, nothing's a perfect model. You can still find, a godly girl who like is not right for you, or like not godly. But it just makes kind of like lowers the percentage chance of you finding someone that's going to screw you over or not be right for you.
Yeah, because like, here's the thing, like, when you, like, it's very tempting to like date someone who's extremely attractive and has millions of followers on Instagram and all that stuff, right? Like, in my past, like, I briefly dated for like a month or two. It wasn't like a real relationship, and it's like, you see each other, whatever, like every day. Like Playboy Playmates, Max models, whatever. But it's like the worst shit, like, like, there was this one Max model I dated, and she would always be trying to find coke every single like day, No, it's like, it's terrible. And if she didn't have coke, she was crazy. Like, legitimately, like, she couldn't function without coke. Like, would go to like a party together, and she'd always be like, "Where's the coke? Where's the coke? Where's the coke? Hey, Kev, I need coke. I need coke. Do you know someone? Do you know someone? Do you know someone with coke?" And I was just like, "What the fuck?" And everyone would be like, And here's the thing, like, when you're like a young guy, you get props or all this shit for being with like an extremely attractive girl.
Yeah, you're also like not experienced, and like you don't know that it's like the wrong choice long term, or like you're just not thinking really. You don't think as much. Like when you reflect on your younger years, you're like, wow, I was a fucking idiot.
Yeah, it's just not worth it. And yeah, you're like, oh yeah, like you're getting all the, like, when you're young, you care about all this stuff. You care about like, oh, like I look like the shit, like I get all this validation from like guys and girls alike. Like, all the girls want to talk to you as well, right? Like other
Yeah,
girls,
because you
whatever.
yeah, because you're with a girl of, higher status.
Yeah, than them, right? And
Yeah.
it's like there's all this, and it's like, oh, like, it makes up for this, like, drug problem, or whatever, right?
Makes up for this drug.
So
Yeah.
it's like it's crazy though. Like most of these girls, like they just have very serious problems. I don't think I've met a single, and I've met a lot. I've met so many models, so many playmates and all that stuff, and like they always have a problem, like a serious problem, like whether it's drugs or like insecurity or something. It's like these girls you don't really want to date. Yeah, like it's good to. I'd say it's good to get out of your system. Like at least experience it. I'd say. But then
Bro, why does everyone say that? Okay, this fucks me up, man, because everyone says it. Literally every successful person says to do that shit, to do, like, fool around, do some stupid shit here, but then they always say that it's better to have a relationship. So I just don't understand the mindset of saying you should do that shit, but they always know that it's better to have a relationship. Why not just go straight to the fucking relationship?
Here's the thing, man. I think we as men are dumb as fuck.
Yeah.
Like we know what's a better choice, but we always will wonder. You can listen to 1,000 people more successful than you, or have done it, and they'll tell you like all this shit, and you're just like, and you're like, oh yeah, that sounds good. But in the back of your mind, you're like, is it though? Is it really? And you'll want to do it. It's like. Yeah, I feel like we're not smart enough to learn from other people's mistakes all the time, especially when it comes to when it comes to like sex and all that dating stuff. It's a very, very powerful force, right? And I think the reason why we all say the same thing is because we know that, like we know that especially when you're young, right? Like I'm still pretty young, I'm 26, right? Relatively young.
For sure. That's young.
But. Yeah, like, we know that if we didn't go through that, we know that in our relationship, we might not be as, what's the word for it? Faithful, if you know what I mean. Like, we'd always be wondering, like, oh, this might be better. Like, like this girl's much more attractive, or...
So you're saying you have to almost experience the shittiness of dating one of those type of girls to, appreciate the long-term committed relationship more.
That's a good way of framing it. Yes.
Yeah. I think that's better than, because most people just say what you just said, and then I'm like, oh my god, like that's just like you guys are, dude. Even by oh my god, yeah. It's just it's.
Yeah, like I'm sure you've had a mentor like tell you that, like it's much better to be in a relationship for your goals. And
everyone tells me that that's in a relationship because it is, right?
It is. Yeah, it is. And I didn't really believe it either. I was like, because I feel like I had like not the best experience growing up because my parents would always fight and argue and stuff. It's like, and then I'd hear like other relationships and where I see other relationships, and then it's like they're just fucking like they just look miserable. Like the guy just looks pissed. He hasn't had sex in a year or something, and it's like it just looked like a terrible existence. And I was like, is it really that good? It's like, do I really want to be in a relationship ever?
Yeah.
But it has to be with the right person. I think that's what I didn't realize. Like all these people that are in bad relationships, it's like they didn't have the option, I'd say, to choose. You need to come from a place of abundance. When you're picking, like the right chick. You can't be like, oh, this is the only girl that will be with me or have sex with me or whatever. Like, you want to pick the right partner that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but knowing you can get like almost any girl that you want, I think that will, give you the best chance of, being with the right girl, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah. But you also kind of have to be at a certain level of, experience to be able to think that way, right? Because confidence comes from actually doing stuff and like, sticking to your words, sticking to your values, sticking to like what you're doing on a daily basis and where you're trying to go. that will allow you to get to the place of like, okay, I deserve a girl like this, right?
Exactly.
Because if you're not doing any of those things, then you don't deserve a girl that you want.
Exactly. And it's
Yeah.
and besides success, you have to know you have to be experienced with girls. Like as a girl, it's not good to be ran through, obviously, right? But as a guy, I'm not saying like get ran through as a guy, but it's like but you have to get experience. You can't just settle down with the first chick you find, and not have, because you won't know. She could be the best girl in the world, but you won't know. You know, you won't value her even if you find her. You'll always be wondering. So I'm not saying to sleep with like thousands of girls or something, but it's like, but you have to get some experience. It's like what's like the example of like, if you go to the grocery store and like, you're not gonna, you have to know like you're not gonna just pick up the first like grass-fed steak and be like, oh yeah, like I've only seen one grass-fed steak and I picked it up the first one and this is the best one in the entire store. It's like, it's like you have to like, pick up a few, pick up 10.
People don't even know about the flat iron. Like it's a fucking sleeper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the flat iron or like different cuts. Like, yeah, what are the best cuts? Is it ribeye the best cut? Is it New York steak the best cut? Is like, the beef tenderloin, is that the best one? Oh, what's the expiration date on the shit? It's like, I need to get the freshest one, the one that hasn't been ran through. And it's like you have to know all this stuff, right? Because you might pick up like the shittiest piece of steak. Like the beef chuck or something that's like, like non-organic, not grass-fed, $5 a pound, it's about to expire, or it already expired, and then you're like, oh, that's the best steak. You're like,
yeah, I'm gonna keep reordering this one.
Yeah, even though it's the only one I got, yeah, I'm just gonna stick with this one forever. It's like, come on, but. Yeah, not to compare women to steaks, but
we've been making a lot of questionable comparisons this episode.
Women come on
women to investments.
Would come on very would come on very misogynistic. Yeah, but it's just to make it more clear. It's the way the world is now. Like to not get fucked over now. You have to have a very high level of competence in all areas, not just money. Because I bet a lot of rich people that don't have a good life.
Yeah.
Like they have hundreds of millions of dollars, or they're even a billionaire and their life is shit. Like they're fat, out of shape, their wife cheats on them.
Yeah.
So.
No, yeah, a girl in health is like almost above money because it's just like. Those will cause you more problems and more severe problems than money will.
Yeah, exactly. Like a girl can take you for everything you have, right?
And health can too.
And health can. Like you like if tomorrow like they said like, oh, you couldn't wake up, like would you unless you give up all?
Dude, even a year, man. Not even tomorrow. Even a year.
Yeah.
Like in a year, you can't wake up. In 5 years, in 10 years, you fucking wouldn't.
Yeah,
literally in 50 years, if you put any date, like I know it's like the one day is like the common example, but if you put any date on your death, you would not take it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like 50 years from now? Fuck no. I'm going to live to like 125.
Yeah, easy.
At least.
Yeah. No,
probably cryo freeze my ass.
Yeah, no, seriously. Like with all the technological like advancements and stuff, like we might be able to reverse aging and all that shit by the time we get old, So it's like, and that shit will cost money, but it is what it is, right? Yeah, but
do you think we're actually gonna be able to? Do you think we'd ever be able to live forever?
I think it'd be. That's a tough question, But I mean, I've already looked into like some stuff, and you can definitely
for your future.
Yeah. But
okay, talk about some weird shit with this because I haven't looked into this at all.
Well, it's pretty common. Well, not common, but it's like like if you really want to start extending your longevity, and you have money, and you can start like today, like even in your 20s, like. You can start literally, injecting your, like stem cells into your body and start regenerating all your like shitty cells, And like that alone, if you start doing it, like, well, it's kind of expensive. Like it's like 20, 30K every time you do it, right?
Yeah.
So to do it every day would be kind of expensive, right? But if you have the money, you can do that like every like week or month or whatever, and then that in and of itself, could there's no like accurate study or whatever of how long that will extend your lifespan, but that alone easily could extend your life by like 30 years, if not more, So it's like things like that, and also like, of course, like doing all the things like we do, right? Like eating like grass-fed beef, and taking supplements, and taking the right supplements, and having the right like nutrition plan for your body and what you're deficient in. So getting like blood tests done, see what you're deficient in, having like a professional like really analyze every single metric. Kind of like, what's that one guy who's doing that right now? Brian Johnson or whatever the fuck his name is. He's like this health nut. He's spending like millions of dollars or something, and he's like recording it and sharing it or whatever. Like, blueprint. I've looked at that, and he's like reversing aging, right? Like by just how he's living, right? Of course, that's not feasible because he's like, for most people, because he's like a billionaire. But but it's definitely possible, even just with like, and the way he's doing it is, it's not like anything crazy, well, it's kind of crazy for most people, but it's like, but it's possible to reverse your aging just with that. And, I don't think he's doing any like stem cell stuff, but it's like, and there's going to be more advanced stuff that's coming out every single year, right? But it'll only be, I'd say it's very exclusive, right? Like all the new technologies and all that, like it'd be reserved for like the ultra rich, like the ultra wealthy, right? So it's like, I think it's possible. So at least I would say an estimate of how long you can live if you're wealthy, you could probably live to like 200. I'd say,
that's it's gonna be crazy to think. Shit's advancing so quickly. So, but I think honestly, the biggest thing naturally, like without like the health and all that, it's like literally just like liking what you do. Like I can't tell you how many times like I've heard like, like not wanting to work the next day or something like that. It's like, that's insane to me, right?
Yeah, no,
like,
it's like, wait, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to like the point of the book, like Man's Search for Meaning, by Viktor Frankl. Yeah, and how like the first part he broke down his experience in Auschwitz camps during the Holocaust, and he broke it down to the point where it was like people died not because of like how much physical like pain that they were going through and like everything that was happening to them in the camps, but because they lost hope. Because the resilience that they experienced in the camps, like the body is very resilient. But as soon as your mind kind of goes and like you're like, you lose hope, then you die. Yep. And he in the camp he was able to service people like through his like experience as a doctor and stuff, and so he was able to have more hope, and that's how he said he survived. That was like the biggest takeaway I got from that book. It's like, it's literally just like hope that like you have a better future, that you're going towards something that you want to go towards, and that you're working towards something that you actually enjoy.
No, that's a fantastic book. I remember reading that book like years ago when I was really lost on my purpose. And I remember I was reading that.
What point was that?
This was when I was already a millionaire. This was probably like 5-6 years ago. And I remember I was like kind of lost, I'd say, of what I was like, why am I achieving all this shit? It's like, and this was like during like some of the hedonistic times, but it was like so like empty, It was like,
bro, that's what happens, man. It is empty as shit, dude. That's why it pisses me off when people say that you have to try it out. You have to hook up with those girls and shit. It's like, bro, that's literally like the hedonistic shit is the devil. It's the devil, and the devil's real, and it ties you into this shit, to make you feel worse. You feel worse doing that stuff because it's not fulfilling.
It's not.
bullshit.
It's really not. Yeah, like, and I was, yes, but when you're young, like I like to blame it on me being young,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I feel like it's just, yeah, I feel like you just choose not to believe, But I remember reading that book, and I forgot where I was exactly in the world, but I was on like by the ocean, like on the ocean pretty much. Like how there's like rocks that sometimes span into the ocean.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I went down like 100 meters into the ocean, like on like some rocks reading that book. So I was surrounded by like waves and shit,
Yeah.
And I was like reading that fucking book. I was like, damn, like, yeah. I'm a pretty fast reader, so like I went through that book in like, say like an hour and a half, I think. Yeah, I went through that book. And I was like, and it was one of the most impactful books. I had like my pen and everything, and I was like highlighting or like, just underlining shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, like this guy went through like one of the most horrific experiences I think you can experience as a human. And, he got out of it through a belief that, his life would be better. Like his belief that, he'd get out of there someday and share his story, of what he went through, and it would help other people, right? And like not losing that belief, in himself, and having that hope that things, like as you said, like things would get better, right? And always striving, for a better purpose, right? And I think in that moment it was like, okay, like, like what is the purpose, like what am I, like, what am I doing this all for? What do I really, want out of my life? And in that moment, I was like, damn, like I really just, want to like be around good people, just like, I have a brother too. I want to like, I hadn't been talking with him as much, and I was like, the people in my life like that I'm already close to, I want to like strengthen those bonds, and I want to start taking my health a lot more, stop doing as much hedonistic shit, just like really like focus back more on my goals, and what I want to achieve, and really just create a more fulfilling life. It's just, like focusing more on my health, and I think that really, like, that really helps me a lot. Like, it's funny how you talk about that book, because that was one of the, like, I've read a few pivotal books in my life, but that was definitely one of the best ones I've read. And it was like the right book at the right time, I'd say. Because if I read that back, when I was, broke and, whatever, I don't think I would have gotten the same meaning out of it, so.
Yeah, no, you sometimes got to go back to books, read them twice as well. Like something like that book. I've read a lot on the Holocaust just because it's like, it's such a crazy experience that people had to go through. And like, families that were put in the camps and shit. It's just like, it just puts a lot of things into perspective. And, like that's literally like the worst thing probably in history that's happened to people.
Yeah.
Debatably, maybe like the torture back in like the 1700s and shit, like that stuff was pretty messed up. But on like a mass scale, I think that was probably the worst shit ever.
It's probably the worst event in like recorded human history, right? Maybe there was some other stuff, but it's definitely one of the worst, if not the worst. And you realize like how fucked up the world can be, and it really makes you believe like there's evil in the world. Too.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the devil's side, right? So that's where like even when one person is going into that hedonistic shit that you're talking about, right? That's the pull, right? And that's what people are getting pulled towards, right? So it's just you, you're just doing that shit, and then other people are doing it, right? So it's pretty much the fight between good and evil, right? And like even up, and like we're at like we're at a smaller level than like even like the fucking like biggest people, right? And there's evil there as well in terms of like them getting pulled and stuff.
Yeah, there's I mean, we can talk about things off camera, but it's like, there's some crazy shit in the world, and you know,
Oh wait, I'm actually interested in that. Let's just wrap this up, and then I'm interested. In what else.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you guys don't get. We can't be
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
canceled out here.
Yeah, like we'll probably like we're probably over schedule, but it's like, you know, having this, you know, conversation with you, you know, like, you know, and you know, you're very similar to Luke. You know, you guys both have great mindsets and good people to talk to, you know. So this is really good good conversation. But yeah, there's crazy things in the world, man. You know, there's, it's like there's no good without evil, no evil without good, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that's why, like, I think that is, I think the biggest proof case of like of why, like, you know, God exists, you know, because like if there's such evil in the world, there must be a yin and a yang, you know, there must be a flip side, and it's all of it, right?
Yeah, everything's very dichotomous.
Yeah, because it's like I feel like if you're a normal person, you don't really see, or like if you don't read about history and all that, like you don't realize how bad the world can be, you know, like if you don't travel much and you just stay in the U.S. or whatever, or like first world countries, you don't see how bad the world can be, you know, how fucked up like some countries are, and the things people do, you know, like, you know, and there's things like, we don't have to like go into depth about it, but like there's like horrific crimes, you know, like human trafficking and all that stuff, and just really messed up, you know, stuff that happens in the world every day, and like, you know, I you know, and people don't realize like it's going on, you know, you know, like there's so much crazy stuff that goes on, and the higher level I get, it's like you start to realize like,
yeah, you know more about it, you know you get in the rooms, you hear shit.
Yeah, exactly, and it's like, damn, like, you know, you thought it was just all like a conspiracy, you know, theory, you know, at the time, or like when you know, didn't know much about it in like from actual experience, right? But yeah, it's the world is crazy, man. You know.
Okay, we'll wrap this podcast up. All right, thanks, Gav, for being on the HighKey Podcast. Very enjoyable conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Jackson, for having me on, and yeah, it's always good to, you know, talk with, you know, people like yourself, and it's very, you know, it's very enjoyable, you know, to be able to share your experiences, you know, and always grateful, and yeah, it's I mean, for the people listening, it's you know, you know, I think I do with, like, you know, life can be as good as you want to make it, right?
Yeah.
And you know, it'll take work, and you know, I feel like as long as you do the right thing and you work hard, you know, never do anything like, you know, sneaky, or you know, just be good to people, work hard,
Slowly progress without fatal aggression.
yeah, and just have a higher purpose. Find out what that is, and yeah, just work on it, and you'll live a fantastic life.